Welcome to another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Pleased to be joining you. Thanks for tuning in. Got another great show lined up for you this week. I know you'll think so after viewing it. Sean Bock joining us here in just a moment. Sean, of course, with CBS Sports and 247 Sports, beat writer covering all things Hawkeyes athletics. And then we'll close out the show in our sports betting segment, talking with Mike Palm, VP of Operations of Circa Sports. Mike, of course, the Dubuque, Iowa native, joins us from Vegas. Looking forward to that as always. That being said, here's our good friend Sean Bock. Sean, my friend, it's always great to see you. It's been a couple of weeks. How's everything going with you, my friend?
It's going great, Dave. Can't complain. It's not necessarily the crossover season yet in terms of basketball and football, but it's been a little busier the last couple of weeks with basketball visits coming on. And, I'm not really liking this hot weather too. I'm kind of ready for it. It doesn't really feel like fall. I was with one of my buddies earlier today, and I'm like, man, it really, like, I kind of just forgot what time of year it was because I know like football's on and stuff, but man, it being 90 degrees, like, it's totally not, ideal for September 16th.
Second and third summer, as you mentioned, Sean. We
Yeah.
record this on Tuesday afternoon, September 16th. Technically on the calendar, it's not fall officially until this upcoming Monday on the 22nd. But I get your point. We've had first fall, a pre-fall, then now a second and third summer. So like you said, hopefully we can normalize and get these 90-degree football games out of our way. That being said, Sean, congrats to Kirk Ferentz, 206 career wins. Caden Weegan, the Jet, the Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week. And my goodness, Sean, the return he had, 95-yard punt return with the Willie Mays catch over the shoulder, zigzagging his way all over the field. Let's talk about some highlights from that before we get into the presser today you had with Kirk Ferentz and the availability with the players.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things too is seeing Kirk Ferentz get his flowers because Beth gets talked. I've said this multiple times on multiple different interviews that I've been on the last couple of weeks. But Beth Getz said a couple of weeks ago on KXNO, she goes, "This is probably never going to happen again in terms of just how many wins, or like Big Ten especially, considering this day and age of college football, the longevity and just like being able to stay at one spot and wanting to stay at one spot for so long. Obviously, Kirk has had options to go other places. I think it was, I can't remember which season it was, but the Cleveland Browns rumor, like all that stuff, the rumor of him going to back to the NFL. Um, and just to see him like get his flowers and like be able to, be honored in that way. And, going back to the Getz comment, she said if Kirk's first 2 years would have happened now in college football, there's no way in heck that he would have been retained like, at some of these other places and, probably at Iowa too, considering, it's a pretty strong program. But yeah, just to see him get his flowers and there's a reason why, the coaches that he has on the staff stay so long and stay at in Iowa City, even when they get offers to go other places. They love Kirk and they love, the culture that he's helped build in Iowa City. And, he just kind of hires the right people in terms of personality, in terms of fit, recruits the right guys who want to play for him, who want to be challenged in that way. And, it's a unique thing to play football at Iowa compared to maybe some other programs too. And it's just a different kind of program. And to see that kind of consistent success they've had the last couple of years. And, I understand the frustration with the offense and, the conservative play calling, but there'd be a lot of programs that would kill to be in Iowa's shoes over the last couple of years with Kirk Ferentz.
John, there were so many other things I was going to say in reference to the Kirk Ferentz. You said getting his flowers and post game. I know a lot of other reporters are reporting on this and saw it as well. But that was the first thing that struck me when he walked off the field was the embrace of he and Lisa Bluter, and I saw it in real time happening on TV. And I'm like, okay, that needs to be discussed. And I'm so glad it was, and we are. But the one thing I wanted to say to you as well, Sean, there are six schools, and of course you can throw in Alabama, Clemson, some of the other biggies. There are six schools, including the University of Iowa, in 9 years. And if it happens this year, it'll be the last 10 years that have had 8 wins or more. So when you said there are a lot of schools that would love to be in Iowa's position with Kirk Ferentz and people want to complain about the offense or lack thereof, I think that's pretty good company to be in with those creme de la creme or the top tier of college football to be one of those six schools, Sean, with 10 years, good upcoming on 10 years in a row, the last 9 years of 8 wins or more per season. That is an amazing stat, Sean. You've got to update us on some injuries for the Hawkeyes going into this week from today's availability with Kirk Ferentz and also the players. Give us some information, if you would, as of Tuesday afternoon, September 16th, please, Sean.
Yeah, it sounds like Xavier is going to be a no-go this week against Rutgers, which is kind of a blow because Iowa obviously wants to be able to run the football. But it sounds like the Hawkeyes are going to get Kamari Moulton back in the fold. Now, to what extent are they going to have him go? That's an up for debate. I mean, I could probably see 10 to 15 snaps to get him kind of acclimated. But I mean, the likes of Jazzy and Patterson and probably Nathan McNeil are probably going to get a good amount, and Terrell Washington Jr. as well. Those three guys are probably going to get the most run this upcoming weekend or this Friday against Rutgers.
Let's talk about both units on both sides, on offense and defense going into this game. Give me your assessment, please, Sean.
The nice thing about Mark is, he's a fifth year guy or he's an older guy. He has been in some of these tough spots before. He has experience playing in a tough road game and as a Hawkeye when they went to go play at Iowa State. And he has, like I said, he's done it before and he's able to make plays with his feet. And I think that's something that Rutgers defense really struggled with against Ohio and Parker Navarro. Just I think Navarro had like 80 or 100 yards or something like that rushing. And I think that dual threat ability for Iowa and Gronowski can really help against Rutgers. And with the receivers too, I mean, we talked a lot about the run game, so I won't really go too much in depth there. But I feel like with the wide receivers, drops really have to, they have to figure that out because Iowa's not good enough of a passing team to have as many drops as they have, and for them to be efficient and move forward on the offense or with the passing offense, and to be able to, accomplish what they want to accomplish. So I think they have to figure that out. Offensive line, I thought the pass protection was a little bit spotty against UMass. That's something that needs to improve against Rutgers. I don't think Rutgers is an elite defense, but I think they're, obviously a step up of UMass. I mean, that's not really hard, but that's kind of what it is. They have a couple capable edge rushers. Rutgers does, and then the defensive line. I thought the edge pressure was good in terms of getting pressure on the UMass quarterback and sinking the pocket. I thought the interior was good. Secondary looks very very improved, or at least better than I think will be expected. But they're going to be challenged this week against Rutgers. And I'm interested to see how Rutgers kind of goes about that because Iowa State wasn't really trying too many deep shots. I'm interested to see if Rutgers does that or tries to do that a little bit more to kind of test that Iowa secondary. And then special teams. I mean, some of those mistakes you gotta clean those up because Kirk Ferentz has said it. I know he's given a hard time for caring so much about special teams at times, but man, like those can really decide the outcome in a game. And I think Rutgers had two blocked punts against Norfolk State last week too. So that's an area where they got to really fix her. And once you get in these Big Ten games, the margin for error is so slim. And it feels like the margin for error is so slim in every game that Iowa has this season that one or two, mess ups on special teams could really go a long way in deciding the outcome of the game.
I'm so glad you went there, Sean, because a blocked punt for Iowa, Reese Dakin, and then a missed extra point from Drew Stevens.
Yeah.
Even though the field goal looked good, looked like it went over the upright, top of the upright, it was ruled no good. That was a chip shot or very makeable for Drew Stevens. So you're exactly right. There have been some penalties on special teams, coach. You can go back to the Iowa State game with Caden Weegan. Okay, so he absolved himself of all that, and look what he did. So hopefully special teams can tighten it up. And I was going to jokingly say if LeVar Woods had special teams coach LeVar Woods, if he had any hair on his head, he'd have pulled it out by now because like with Kirk Ferentz, LeVar Woods is very detail oriented. The Hawks have to win games, as you mentioned, in the margins. That's why they're so successful in special teams. One of those three big teams on the Hawkeye total team of offense, defense, special teams. So great points there. Sean, let's take a pause from football. And when we come back with you in the second segment, we'll do a quick segment on basketball. A big recruit commitment that Sean and I will be back for one more segment, and I'll close out the show with Mike Palm, VP of Operations for Circa Sports, an Iowa native, now located in Vegas. We'll be back with more Hawkeye and me, Dave O'Hara, in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by Better Edge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on Better Edge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, Better Edge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at betteredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. Better Edge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Sean Bock, kind enough to stay over and join us for the second segment, talking some Hawkeye men's basketball. Of course, as you know, Sean joins us on this program regularly. Hawkeye beat writer for 247 Sports and CBS Sports. Sean, I said it in the previous segment, gave a little teaser. Here you go. Take your just desserts. You called it. Ethan Harris, now an Iowa Hawkeye from the state of Washington. Big get because of the competition of recruiting him. But talk about some of the other commits or potential commits and who they have on campus for visits. So let's talk Ethan Harris first, his commitment to the Hawkeyes, and some of the other ones, please, Sean.
Yeah, Ethan Harris was a really big win for this Iowa staff. He was a guy that they were heavily pursuing at that wing or hybrid position, as they call it, which is when I should probably mention this, Dave, because when you're watching Ben McCollum's team, the way they classify it to recruits or the way they kind of classify their offense or positions is you have a true point guard, then you have three hybrids, and then you have a true five, like a center. So Ethan fits in that hybrid mold. But if you're thinking like in terms of okay, like position basketball, he's more of like a 3-4, 6'9", 205 pounds, really good shooter. Is able to make plays off the bounce too. He's pretty long and athletic, a little rangy. He's got to add a little more mass. Really good athlete too. And one of the things that really stands out about him is his defense and his defensive versatility. He can guard multiple positions, guard on the perimeter, guard on the interior. He can guard through screens. He's a really good movement shooter in terms of like, you can run things for him, run him off things, put him in different actions on the offensive end. There's a lot of things that, he looks like he looks the part, or he fits the part of what Iowa wants in that hybrid spot. And the thing that's really nice about him too is you have a couple of younger guys there that fit in that hybrid role. You have Trey Thompson, you have Cooper Koch, Tate Sage, three freshmen. I mean, obviously Cooper is younger, or Cooper is older, excuse me, a redshirt freshman. Then you have a guy like Alvaro Folgueras who has one more year after this year. Ethan can play with those guys, but he can also learn behind those guys. And he also has a game that really complements them well. And that's one of the things I like about how Ben McCollum recruits and how this staff recruits as a whole, because you have guys who play similar positions, but they can really play together and are like similar builds, but they can really play together and work off each other. And I think that read and react offense that they have is, really complementary to the guys that they have on the roster, especially at those positions. So I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, like what's up with the log jam at the 3-4? Like you have to just trust McCollum and trust what he can do because these offenses and the skill that he gets at those positions, those guys fit really well together. And Ethan is, no different from that. But yeah, he was a really big coup for them. Winning over Gonzaga, Washington, Bryson Williams, the Iowa assistant, was the lead guy there. Obviously missing out on in-state guys like Jaden Kuhn and Colin Rice was disappointing, but after they missed out on Jaden, they went right after Ethan Harris and they were kind of recruiting him pretty heavily too, even, before Colin Rice made his decision to go to Nebraska. So Harris is a guy that they spent a lot of hours on, a lot of time, put in the work to get him, winning over programs like Gonzaga and Washington, which obviously Gonzaga, we know Washington's had a couple down years, but Washington looks like it's going to be pretty good in the Big Ten this season. So that's still a pretty big win for this Iowa staff. And now the mission is to get a guard. That is the number one priority for this staff in the 2026 class. And I mean, they have two guards that they're really in on, four-star guards, Joseph Hartman and Quentin Coleman. Hartman took an official visit to Iowa this past weekend. It sounds like it's Iowa and Minnesota right now for him. The Gophers were considered slight favorites for a bit, but Iowa's been able to get in there and kind of narrow the gap. But Michigan's also involved too, so that could really be an interesting wrinkle. And then Coleman is a guy from St. Louis, the Principia. The Principia school is what it's called. He seems like that perfect fit at the lead guard spot for Iowa. He's a good shooter. He's a winner. He's able to make plays off the bounce, create. He's got some good twitch to him. He's not as big as Hartman. Hartman's around 6'5", but Coleman's more that like true lead guard in a way. Well, Hartman kind of is like more of a 2 or 3 or more of a combo guard. But both those guys are really really talented players, and the competition with Coleman right now is Wake Forest, Texas Tech. Sounds like Texas A&M is making a little bit of a harder push too, but most of the buzz right now has been with Iowa and Wake Forest, and he'll be on campus later this month. But that's the guard position has been the big priority for this Iowa staff, and it's been a big focal point for them because I mean they don't have much on the roster right now. The expectation after the season is that they're going to go for a portal guard who can come in and make an impact right away. But they want to get at least one or two guards in this class too to, kind of bolster up what they have. And, I mean, both guys are really nice fits. I like Coleman a little bit more, but I think Hartman would be a nice fit as well.
Hybrid, that's the key word for Ben McCollum and his Hawkeye basketball team. I
Yeah.
love it, Sean. Great analysis as always from you and a breakdown of talent, either upcoming or currently as Iowa Hawkeyes. Folks, there he is, Sean Bock. He is beat writer for the Iowa Hawkeyes athletics for CBS Sports and 247 Sports. Sean, my friend, it is always great to see you. Great conversations as always with you. I fully enjoy that and look forward to talking to you in a couple weeks, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave, for having me.
Truly my pleasure. For Sean Bock, I'm Dave O'Hara. We're going to close out the show in our third and final segment with our sports betting segment. Mike Palm, VP of Operations at Circa Sports. Mike, of course, a Northeast Iowa native, as am I. Look forward to talking to you and Mike and closing out the show. This is Hawkeye. I'm Dave O'Hara. Back with more in just a few moments.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman from Mershman Seeds. Substitutions cost you money. Why take their seconds when you can have our first choice? Here's Ben Pieper to tell you more about Mershman Power Core Enlist corn.
We are way ahead of Big Seed on this one. This corn has 4 different post-herbicide tolerances, multiple modes of action for above-ground pests, and it is some of the highest-yielding corn genetics that are out on the market today.
If you're one of the many that got substituted on your corn hybrid last spring, contact your local Mershman Seeds dealer today and ask them about Power Core Enlist corn. From Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Always pleased to have this next guest join us. I don't even want to call him a guest, regular. Mike Palm, Iowa native from the Dubuque area, VP of Operations at Circa Sports and circasports.com, at Mike Palm Circa via social media. Of course, you'll see all of Mike's information at the bottom of the screen along with mine throughout this program. Mike Palm, it is great to see you. It's been a while. You've survived the summer. How's everything going with you in Vegas, my friend?
Yeah, Dave, it's been a while since we talked, so it's good to reconnect with you. We made it through the summer and back into football. Another record-setting Survivor contest, 18,700 entries, so up from 14.2 last year. We introduced the $100,000 Grandissimo. We were hoping, to get 15 or 20 with the guarantee. We got 69.
Wow.
Of which 68 have survived the first 2 weeks. Drastically different than last year when we had such chaos. There's been very little. I mean, we still have over 95% in the big survivor pool, and as I said, only 1 out of 69 eliminated in the $100,000 one, and then we got 5,700 in our millions. So we're glad to get those contests underway, and of course, in full swing now with college football and the NFL.
Absolutely. And Mike, kind enough to join us on his drive to pick his kids up from school. So we wedge it in whenever we can get it. Busiest man in Vegas, no doubt. So, Mike, you're part of setting the lines and you're part of that decision-making room. And you mentioned what a different Survivor is this year from last year, that Survivor Series. Almost happened, though, Mike. A lot of people were on the Eagles in week 1, and they darn near got upset by the Cowboys. That would have been interesting to see. But, as you said, a lot of people survived and we're moving on.
Yeah, I mean, everybody had a scare. Denver was the most picked team. Look, Tennessee led in the second half and had the ball down 8 several times in the fourth quarter. Arizona didn't exactly put New Orleans away. And then Arizona, another heavy pick in week 2. You're up 27-3, and all of a sudden Carolina has the ball down 5 with 2 minutes to go. What an epic collapse that would have been. I feel bad enough for the people that laid 6.5, but to have your survivor hopes dashed. So every game, I mean, there were very few blowouts where you could say there were no sweat games. I mean, Cleveland gave Cincinnati all they wanted in week 1, and they outgained Baltimore too, although Baltimore pulled away in the second half. So, I mean, every game basically outside of the Colts dominating the Dolphins in week 1 and the Packers dominating the Lions in week 1, have really been competitive games. I guess Detroit over Chicago was pretty convincing last week. That was about the 4th most picked in Survivor, the Lions last week.
Now, I'm glad we're talking NFL, and then we'll morph into the Hawkeyes, and then we'll close out talking some WNBA and Caitlin Clark, or minus Caitlin Clark. But in the NFL, I want folks to know that, especially in Iowa, you can do prop bets and bet on your players, Sam Laporta being one, skill position players, and other prop bets. Sides, they call them as well. Mike, would you talk just a little bit about that for the uninitiated? Talk about that a little bit for Hawkeye fans of players in the NFL from the U of I.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We offer basically prop bets over under rushing yards, passing yards, and receiving yards for the starting quarterback, starting running back, starting wide receiver 1, 2, and tight end 1, and sometimes 2, depending on how prolific they are. The exciting news for folks in Iowa is that Circa Sports is rolling out our new app on September 30th. So we're only about 2 weeks away. This is going to be the tech that we develop, so we're not relying on another company. We will have cash out options, and we will have same game parlays available. So look for that. You're going to have to download the new app starting September 30th. We're going to run a promotion early in October. I think we're going to have a big pot. Details aren't finalized yet. I think Derek's going to put up $100,000, and everybody over a 10-day stretch that wagers at least 100 gets one share in this pot, and everybody that wagers 500 gets another share. And it's not just for new members, it'll be for existing members. Look for that coming out in conjunction with the release of the new app on September 30th.
Always got stuff going on. You do it, Circa, that's for sure. And I was going to lead in with that, but man, you got right into it with Survivor and then Grandissimo and then the new app. That's awesome. So, folks, just in case you don't know, George Kittle out for another couple weeks. So look at Sam Laporta. Of course, I start mentioning names and I'm going to leave some off, but that just gives you a few examples in the state of Iowa, folks. So, as we know, the NFL rosters are full of former Hawkeyes in the NFL. We love it. So, Mike, let's you and I talk Hawkeyes, specifically current day, playing Rutgers. And last year, the easy bet was over/under, take Iowa in the under. And heck, you guys were setting a lot of these under games, but let's make note here for the folks. A lot of that didn't happen until Big Ten play started, which is Iowa's first Big Ten game this Friday night at Rutgers. And by the time this airs, in some markets, the game will have already been played. You guys have it as of Tuesday afternoon as we record this. On September 16th, Iowa is a 2.5-point favorite, and then a 45 in the hook, 45.5 on the total or over under. Let's talk about that a little bit, with Rutgers' first 3 games being kind of walkaways or walkovers against non-Power 4 schools. Iowa, of course, the only one of 3 games they played against Power 4 was a 16-13 under loss to Iowa State, but then rolled Albany over and then rolled UMass last week over. So 5 of the 6 games these two teams have played so far this year, Mike, were overs, but as we said, this is the first Big Ten game, so let's get real here.
Yeah, so people have texted me Sunday morning. Actually, I started getting the text, why is Iowa only 2.5 over Rutgers? And I said, well, there's a lot of unknown here. It is a road game. It's a natural Friday night game. And we don't know. Neither team has a quality win over a Power 4 team. Now, maybe you can draw some inference from Rutgers' win over Ohio and the fact that the Ohio team gave Ohio State some trouble last week. Ohio State did not move the ball up and down the field. Ohio played a very good defensive game against West Virginia the week before that. So maybe there's some credit to Rutgers in the market that the one win between the two teams that's of the highest quality is that over Ohio. But with the jury, I think, is still out whether Iowa has the Polish rifle and Ron Jaworski, or if they have the Polish water pistol, which was what we saw against Iowa State. But 45.5 on a Big Ten game would have been unheard of last year. I went back, Dave. The average Iowa total in their Big Ten games last year was 33.5. And in fact, we saw 2 games close under 30. So as you point out, that's a stark contrast to just a season ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you're talking about the could-be Polish rifle, hopefully, and Gronowski for Iowa. But Ethan Kaliakmanis with Rutgers quarterback, Hawkeyes are very familiar with him. He had played at Minnesota before. They're very familiar with Greg Schiano, head coach. Is back now for his second tenure with Rutgers. Of course, Kirk Ferentz, known as defense, became the winningest coach in Big Ten history last week with 206 total wins. Congrats again to Coach Ferentz. But let's you and I close out talking WNBA minus Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, it's certainly a big letdown. I thought it was pretty obvious after she was out starting the 3rd week, she wasn't coming back. And I think the news was held to try to keep viewership around as long as possible. But it is a big letdown. As you say, Indiana was up against it. I mean, they've had 4 players now out of their starting 9 roster lost for the season. and you could overcome one and maybe two, but I mean, then when Cunningham goes down, and so it's going to be 2 years, and I don't think they're going to have a playoff win to show for Caitlin's first 2 years. Although we'll find out tonight, obviously, as the scene shifts back to Indianapolis. Dave, you're really going to like this. I know I didn't mention this to you off air. I've been trying to interview Christine Brennan, the author of On Her Game, the story about Caitlin Clark. Obviously, with her book tour, she was very busy. I'm actually going to interview her on Thursday afternoon this week for my radio show, Bet on Chicago. I'm very excited. I have about 4 main talking points I want to address with her, but it should be an enlightening interview.
I'm so glad you went there. Yes, it should. I can't think of a better pairing with you and Christine Brennan. Of course, as you know, Mike, she's been here in Iowa promoting the book along with Jan Jensen, Lisa Bluter, and wrote the great book, as you mentioned, on Caitlin Clark and the whole process. I'd tell you good luck on you and Christine Brennan's conversation, that interview, but I'm looking forward to hearing that, Mike, and I know you've been looking forward to that for a long time, so have a fun one.
Thank you, and don't be a stranger, Dave.
I promise I won't if you won't. Let's make a deal on that. He is Mike Palm. I'm Dave O'Hara. I want to thank Mike Palm.
Got it.
I love it. I love it. I want to thank Mike Palm, Sean Bock, and of course my production partners at Better Edge and BetterEdge.com, Greg Kieski and James Stiles. And to you, the viewers, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. That's all for me. Thanks to all of you.